Howdy, team.
And Westwood staff, if you're a Westwood staff member, would you please raise your hand and introduce yourself real quick, please?
Robert Franklin, assistant principal.
Very good.
Howdy, Marsha Randall, instructional coordinator.
I'm Carmela Daniels, the school counselor.
Marco French, master teacher, content coach.
Very good. Well, I just wanted y'all to take a minute to, we're going to have question and answer time and go over some information, but I really want you to speak just uninhibitedly just about what you have, think you've seen so far that that you like or that you've been hit by. Any aha moments, any bright spots, anything that you want to share out to the whole group before we get started talking about some data and some question and answer.
Love the scoreboarding and affirmations and lifting up of the other students
Thank you.
across the board.
Thank you.
Excitement and energy.
Thank you.
The discipline in the classroom.
Discipline in the classroom. Thank you.
I think they're being shown the future, what a future is for them.
Wow.
I
Showing
think the answer is leadership.
leadership. Sorry, excellent leadership.
I cried.
You cried?
She
How
didn't
did
cry the
you
whole
cry?
time.
Oh, I was just so moved. We're in the very first school. To see the change and the transition in teachers, our students, it just moved me, I'm moving to tears now. I'm just so impressed.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything else?
I like the way the kids are accountable to each other. They're working together at the tables and sharing and helping each other.
Awesome. What else that hit you as you walked around our schools today?
I think the environment is so encouraging. What y'all did over the summer to make them look so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And the strategies being used, we talked about that on the bus.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it is a calling to be serving these schools, and I know that Dr. Gorey, and coming back to Shreveport to his home to lead this district was something that was not an accident, and it was very in the plan. I know that I see that Dr. Gorey and Mayor Tyler are going to be an excellent team for the city.
Yes.
And I think working together for the school district and the city as a whole, it has a very, very bright future with these two entities working together.
Here, here.
And I feel called to be here as well. And because I've led, I spoke at a church this morning, and one of the things I said was, when the University of Virginia wrote that job description or made a recommendation for what they needed to have in Caddo Parish, which was a shepherd, and then I got to see it and see that, wow, be politically incorrect, fight for kids, don't worry about adults, worry about kids, fight for kids, fight for kids. I almost thought at that time that just like a job description had been written for our Savior, a job description had been written for me. And that job description was to be a shepherd, and I that term of leading and helping to lead people, to empower people, had to involve those 4 big rocks that are on your information sheet. That we had to do all of them. Like, people can't just say, "What one thing are you going to do to fix school?" Because we have to fix it all. So this information is everything that is important to us, and then some highlights from each school. And so just real quickly, the first thing we did was culture and climate. We took all of our principals to the Ron Clark Academy and came back and worked on transforming our school environments. And that meant what they feel like, it meant the discipline procedures, it meant the rules and expectations, and it meant that we would have those statistics that Clay told you about earlier. In case they didn't sink in, remember he said 190 something or 80 something referrals in the high schools, the district last year at this time, and now there's like 87 or whatever. But the thing that should stick out to you is that 75 of those were Fair Park and Woodlawn, and now there's 5. So as a percentage of the overall high school discipline issues, Fair Park and Woodlawn have gone down to that much. That's huge. That's a huge deal. And so it is working. And why it's working is because of those bullet points. We teach and model social skills, and we just recently did workshops at more of our schools where we rebooted. We've done reboot workshops at 5 or 6 of our, 4 of mine, and then another school from not my area. But we're just talking about those things and modeling, role playing, teaching our kids to say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and look people in the eye and shake hands. And when you bump into somebody, the person who bumps says I'm sorry immediately, and the person who gets bumped into needs to chill, but you have to teach that. And so we model that and role play that and reward that. with tickets, with bucks, with Spur Bucks, with the store. Did y'all get to see the store outside?
Yes.
Okay, so all those things are a part of that climate and culture change. The district, Dr. Gorey worked with the maintenance department and Mr. Woolfolk to get things fixed and get things beautified. And so they put forth a lot of effort to prioritize these schools, to make sure these schools were taken care of and beautified and painted and fixed. So we're going to give them a hand too, because all of that is The next section is teaching effectiveness. We had teacher instructional leadership training this summer for all of our employees. We have weekly professional learning meetings at each one of our schools. So Miss Ellis, for example, Sheriff Ellis, they meet with their teachers on Tuesdays all day long during cluster meetings, and then follow through with what they've learned on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday with walks. So it's a cycle of feedback. So that teachers don't just get the training one time, they get the training and then they get assistance, they get coaching, they get help to make sure that we really produce the change. Lesson design, we have a common lesson design model, which is planning with the end in mind. We take a look at what the standards are, what the assessment will look like, and plan the lessons. It's just like teaching your kid to drive. You teach them in the car they're going to have to take the test in. You don't teach them in a smart car and give them the test in a semi. That wouldn't make sense, would it? So we're trying to align the assessments to the instruction. Intervention. Every school has an intervention time, K through 8, built in during the day. And what was happening before was a lot of kids were getting pulled out of core instruction. Okay, so the intervention time, we push people in to the classrooms to make sure that the kids get the services they need during intervention time and they're not missing class. To go to things like resource and content mastery and tutoring. They get their help and support for the most part during class. And I apologize for the formatting error there. But on the number 4, database collaboration and PLCs, we weekly use data, which is all of the data board information, everything behind me. We weekly use data to track our kids because we want to see all of the kids by the end of the year up in green. Okay? And when we started the school year, we had 60 to 80% of the kids in the zone behind grade level. Okay? So we are moving. Notice, we're moving the kids. Okay? We're moving the kids. It's going to take some time. Okay? But we had to make these schools, like Clay said, we had to make them schools first. We had to make them feel like real safe places to learn, where teachers and kids are happy, and where we have structure in place so that we can change the academics. So it's going to take a little bit of time to change the academics, but we're on the right path. How do we know it's working? We have had increases in attendance in all of our schools. We have attendance at 95 to 100% at each one of our elementary schools, and attendance is up at the middle schools and high schools. We've had decreases in discipline referrals, fights, and arrests, just as Clay pointed out to you. Not just little decreases, huge decreases. Okay, the first 12 weeks of school at Woodlawn, they had a 200% decrease in the number of out-of-school suspensions compared to the past. Okay, so we're talking huge decreases. Increases in community partnerships and supports. We've had people come to us from Alliance for Education, Community Foundation, United Way. It is a group effort, and I could not even list all the people that are working with the zone. But they are committed to turning these schools around as a city, and that is impressive. Juvenile justice in the courts. All of these people coming together is going to be what it takes to make this work. Is implementation of systems of professional development and cluster meeting. That's what I was talking about earlier. Making sure that we have systems of PD in place. Our challenges: staffing, recruitment, and retention of teachers, especially in the areas of math, science, and secondary education, and high numbers of at-risk students, including the ones that are overage and been retained. Okay? One of the things we're trying to change is, statistically, African American students, and especially African American boys, are retained at higher levels than other students, and put in special education at higher levels than other student groups. We've got to change that. Okay? And we can change that. I've worked in schools before where when I came into a situation, we had 20% of my African American students in special education, and by the time I left, we had 3%. Okay? It is. It's not in the water, and it's not in your race, and it's not in your wallet. It is in the power of educators. And it really doesn't matter what environment they came from at home, because that becomes an excuse. We have to find what works for them. And what works is working the stuff that's working in Westwood, and the stuff that's working in Midway, and the stuff that's working in Atkins. The stuff that's working in the zone is the stuff that's going to turn these schools around. But we've got to recruit more teachers. So one of the things we're working with HR and with Dr. Gorey and with the University of Virginia is to find a way to grow our own teachers and certify our own teachers and train them to work in situations of poverty and train them, coach them upright. And then also work with the local colleges and universities, and Mr. Burton is working on a project with Believe and Prepare that will do just those things. So the district is working together for those things. In your packet also, we have some things from some just highlights from Westwood, Atkins, and Midway. They're just yours to keep, but if you'll notice, they've each summarized some of their things. Midway, for example, has had 0 discipline referrals. That is totally unlike last year. 0 discipline referrals. That's one of the facts they listed. I won't read them all to you. Okay? Atkins listed and theirs, and I believe if you'll notice that their graph that's in their packet, they've had 4 discipline referrals in the month of December. That's huge. It is huge. Westwood, 17 points of growth in 1 year. Okay? And the discipline referrals, the out-of-school suspensions, down there on the right-hand column, 1.7%. We have made huge strides already. So with that being said, those are your information, that's your information to keep. I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask questions in this short amount of time that we have together. Ask questions about what we're doing that is working or not working, or what you're curious about now that you've actually seen what's going on in our schools. And those questions can be directed to me, or of course to Mr. Burton or Dr. Gord, and anybody else that feels like they can answer them. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about the overage students. I just wondered what the plan was.
Very
for
good.
those students.
One of the things we're doing immediately is to use spots that we have available at the Ombudsman program and use iLearn, which is a computer-based program that catches them up on their credits and their academics. And so one of the things we did at the beginning of the year was identify students that were more than 2 years behind and get them through the SBLC process, which is kind of a referral process, to go over there and catch up. So one of the huge facts is that we have 150 kids at Fair Park and 150 kids at Woodlawn that are overage. Okay, we have a huge number at the middle school levels because in the past these kids have been retained. Okay, so we are working on that to get more kids into that program. Another thing we're doing is with the 9T classes to catch kids up in 9T, and then looking at even elementary school, because one of my elementary schools has 9 kids. That should be in high school. Okay, so one of the things that we're doing there is looking at how can we use some of the progress we've made in discipline to be able to use spots differently at Ombudsman, because our kids aren't being expelled as much anymore. They're not using the Ombudsman spots for discipline anymore. So why can't we look at repurposing them to work to help to catch kids up? And then I'm also in the process of writing a proposal for kind of a school within a school model based on what the University of Virginia has recommended, where you take those kids that are overage at the middle school and get them off the middle school campus and put them at high school campuses in school within a school environments where they take their classes with that certain small group of people and do accelerated credit recovery. So that part is in the process of the proposal, but Mr. Burton and Mr. Woolfolk and Dr. Gorey have already made steps with these spots in the overage class at Ombudsman. But thank you for that question.
One other emphasis is career education.
Yes.
Providing those students at an earlier age skill training so that they would, by the time that they're able to leave high, well, first of all, they won't drop out if they feel that there's truly a future ahead. And we know that through career education and skill-based accreditation, that's going to help us. And it's already started to reduce our dropout rate in the district.
Thank you.
Yes,
No, the 9 students, you know what hit me when you said the 9 students, that's in high, elementary. Are you all gonna keep the data on them and see just how, with this new thing that you're going to work with them on? Can y'all keep a record and see how that,
well, one of our
exactly
goals,
what those 9 students want to do?
right, and one of our goals is to get those kids immediately into something different to credit recovery and using the iLearn program and then
Okay.
accelerate them past the grade levels that they've missed. Because in elementary school, the great thing about elementary and middle school is you don't have to worry about credits. You only have to worry about credits till high school, or in high school. So we're using the intervention model and what we're doing with intervention to be able to catch kids up. And all these other things that we can be creative with in elementary and middle school, because once they get into high school, I mean, they're pretty much, it's credits, and they're gone, and they're gonna drop out. So we are committed to making sure that that changes. I'm also doing significant training with principals and with campuses about how dangerous retention is. And we've talked, I mean, Ms. Sheriff Ellis can tell you, when we've talked repeatedly about you drop out, or you get retained once, you're 50% more likely to drop out. You get retained twice, it's 80%. And my elementary and middle school people have to know that, because we can't be retaining people. We have to get them caught up through intervention. Yes, ma'am.
So are those kids that you mentioned at 9, are they not eligible for the Lead Pathways
Are you
program?
talking about the elementary kids or the ones that are?
The ones that should be on the high school campus, I guess elementary,
You're
is it the 9?
Well, would you explain about pathways, because you have to go with a certain number of credits.
Yes, and that's the problem is those students have to have a minimum number of high school credits in order to enter. Now, if we can provide them with those credits, then they're able to go to Pathways or another alternative provider.
But what we did first is Mr. Burton gave us access to the iLearn program that Ombudsman uses and kept them at that elementary school, since we couldn't just immediately get them off campus. But we want to get them with their peers, because when you have 14-year-olds with 9-year-olds, those they don't want to be there. They don't want to be with those little kids, and little kids don't want them there either. So we're working on that, where they are housed as well as how they are served. What other questions have you come up with since you've toured our schools today?
I think this program, I'm so impressed, and I think it's wonderful. I've seen a lot of programs come and go. I really want this to last. So until they get to the high school level, our commitment to that, is that commitment firm? Because I really like what I see.
Talk about our commitment to this multi-year process.
Thank you for your comments as well too. So excited. I'm just so thankful that you all chose to give us some of your time today. This is it's a marathon. I mean, it's not just a quick race, and we're working this from so many different levels. First off, I talked to my group today about the importance of the K-3 focus, and in our vision of K-3, that was so we could have a very strong focus on literacy and numeracy. We're going to create a system where in 5-10 years, those kids that are now kindergartners in our district will leave 3rd grade very literate and proficient with numbers. So that's going to make their road much easier. So that's our commitment to the long-term success of what we're doing. Where I need your support is, when we started, we thought this is going to be easy. We're going to get this done in no time. Then we got the harsh reality of the numbers, and then we worked, and we were not building as fast as we can. We're just so thankful that we are building. Everywhere we go, we're building. But we may not be building as fast as we'd like to be. But what I tell you is in 3 years, you will see a dramatic difference in the performance of our children in this school district. And the only way we're going to know is if we stick to it. We're going to reach out to our community. We're going to work with our board so that you're helping us to sell this, and that we know that the school district is working hard. It's not always going to be reflected in the score, but of how hard we're working, but that we are working hard, and that we do have a long-range goal. A lot of the things that Mr. Snow has described today are short-term goals so that we can fix some short-term problems. And hopefully, we can have some long-term results, which is what Ms. Bell is asking about. Okay, let's get them there, but now what's going to really happen with them? We are concerned about those long-term results as well. But our commitment is to, when we change those schools to K-3s, and we changed them to 4, 5, 6s, it wasn't the quickest way to show the best results, but it was best for what we need to do in the long range. And that's why we chose to do that. So I stand committed to making this work for our city. And when you think about Ms. Tyler, our Mayor-elect Tyler being with us today, this is a long-term commitment to not only our schools, but to our city. And I'm telling you, promise you, when you change your schools, when you change the way you're taking care of God's children, that's when you're going to see results. It's gonna reach all the way through all of our city. Yes.
Thank you for that.
So why are you here? We'll close on this. You were selected for a reason, because we wanted a broad section of people in the community from different organizations, from different backgrounds, to see what's really happening in our schools. And every time I bring over people to any of these schools that you saw today, it's not a show. It's like this every single day. And you can come back tomorrow and Westwood will be like this. And you can go back to Midway tomorrow and Midway will be like that. And that is how you know it is real change. So when you hear things, one of the things you can be for us is eyes and ears and a mouth, a voice for the school district. because it does take a long time to change. And when you have ratings come out that were based on last year's scores, and then have people talking about the school district, that's not okay, because you know that the new leader just got here last Christmas, okay? The new things for the transformation zone just got in place this summer. Those scores are old, and now we have a new test that we don't know much about. So our scores may not go up this year with Park, if that's the test we end up taking.
I hope not.
But what we do have hard evidence and data for is the discipline, the attendance, the climate and culture information, the Dibbles and Ames Web data that's moving up, the focus quiz data that are being tracked so that you can see how kids are doing on their curriculum on a bi-weekly basis. The one test that the state gives us this year may not be an accurate reflection of how much we've grown. And so one of the things that we're going to do in the future is you guys that have been on this trip is to help us organize future trips with other people who can also be working for the school district for our kids. And I've been transparent with you. We have an issue with staffing. Okay, if you gave me $2 million, I would develop a plan for incentives and recruitment and longevity for my teachers so that if I could put them on a 3-year plan to commit to these schools and get a bonus for signing up, a bonus in the middle for attendance and performance, and a bonus at the end for committing to 3 years, you can turn around a school in 3 years. But the community has to be willing to say, Dr. Gorey, we have $2 million for you. Okay? Because otherwise he's balanced the budget for the first time in years. And he can't just pull $2 million out of his hat. So what we've got to do as a community is realize where we have to focus through the strategic plan and say that staffing and teaching and growing our own and certifications is a huge issue. And then be able to tell other people what we're doing in this community. Because there's lots of good stuff happening. And we want you to be our eyes and ears and volunteer. And volunteer to help us. We've had multiple people volunteer to help us. And so, Ms. Carolyn Spade, and the group that was in the snowman group today, if I say that I need you to organize or to be with me on the next bus trip in January and each of you recruit 5 people, can you do it?
Yes.
Right. And that's where I'm going, is that the snowman group can recruit 5 people for a trip in January. The trees can recruit 5 people for each of you for a group in February. So that you can continue to see the growth that we're making and continue to spread what we're doing to more people in the community. So that's where we're going. Any final thoughts or questions or comments that you'd like to make before we get back on the bus?
Stay the course.
Do what? Stay the course? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have, this is for everybody, since I'm a school board member. Tell me, everybody's a community leader here, how can we get the word out that Caddo Parish school system is not like it was long, that we are doing a good job. I'm depending on the mayor, cause now she can tell all the company's coming. We got the best schools in the world. Cause people are not gonna move their children in this have a good school, right? But she knew already what's going on. But how can we get you all involved to go back and spread the word? Cause perception is the thing. If we can just get you all go back and say, look what you saw today. Now this is not magnet schools or nothing like that. This is what? The schools that was in the house. Tower 1 neighborhood school. So that's what I would like as a school board.
And I really do think, and I'm just saying again, because I say it all the time, and it bears saying again, is that I really do hope the community will help us focus on pre-K education for all of our schools. We were at Midway, they have 1 class. I think that is hugely important that we reach out and provide pre-K education to all of our students and give them the additional time they need, additional day, additional year, and the wraparound services they need. And I really think that will really increase our ability to produce successful students, that you don't get those dropouts that come in and fail in the kindergarten first grade and then fail again and leave, and then we create I really hope that. And then I hope we can follow up on what you just said about teaching. And you talked about incentives. There's some data. I'd like to see that data, but let's sit down and talk about how do we get good, certified, credible teachers into our district and keep them.
Yep.
And I think that'll be because there's nothing more important to raising student achievement.
Right, and we all agree that you get good teachers because you increase the reputation of the school district and you
That's-
increase the
that'll help.
reputation of the leadership.
That will help.
And so that, and there's more important than things than just money. But it does take time to change things.
Right.
And so we've got to
I
invest
think we
in
are.
building teachers, building
I think we need
leaders.
to have some serious conversations.
Thank you so much. I'm very impressed by all of you being here, and I really appreciate all you've done for us today just by your presence. So thank you so much.